Greetings from Rootless Clan. Today we're gonna show you how to make 3D decks in Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition. First of all, we're gonna explain that there are some cards. There are some shipments which you need to take in every deck, no matter which civ you're playing, and there are some cards you should never take. Now, firstly, we're gonna speak about that. Let's take an example. For example, I'm gonna start with France to see to explain which cards you need to take or which cards you shouldn't. First of all, when you're creating your own treaty deck, you cannot take any, I repeat, any of villager cards. A treaty deck, an optimal treaty deck, does not count any villager cards like this. For example, let's select, the New World Trade Company. In here, for example, in this tab, the only card type you should take is the one which upgrading your explorer, or maybe you can take the one which is increasing your villager speed. Otherwise, you cannot take you cannot take any of food grade, wood grade, or gold grade, which is not infinite. You can take maybe one or two infinite cards in your deck, in your treaty deck. I mean, in every civ. I'm not talking for only France right now. You can maybe take 300 infinite wood card or 300 gold infinite card. You can take these. This is optional, but otherwise you cannot take any of the remaining food, wood, or gold crates. Forget it. Also, you cannot take any of this kind of 7 coal cards or 16 sheep cards, these kind of useless cards. I mean, they're not useless, but they're useless for treaty, to be honest. If you want to make your own treaty deck, if you want to learn how to make a good treaty deck, you should know this. So, secondly, you cannot take any of uninfinite, like this, 2, 4, 3, or 5 soldier cards. Maybe you can take with France, for example. I'm just picking France for giving you an example. I repeat, you can take one infinite 4 gendarme cards, because this card is infinite and you can just make 199 population, and after that you can send it again and again, no problem. Yeah, this can be useful, but otherwise you cannot take 2 falconets, 3 falconets, this kind of useless cards, because you just use it once and nothing more. And there are some unit types you shouldn't use in the treaty. For example, you cannot take 10 pikemen or 10 crossbowmen. Why? Because these units are useless for treaty anyways. You're already using skirmishers for destroying your opponent's musketeers. And after all of this, you should take some cards which is upgrading your abilities. For example, fast cannon card, fast cav card, and fast infantry card. And there are some cards upgrading your natives also. And the factory cards. I'm talking about the European civs right now. And if you're playing native, you can take, for example, native. This card is making the natives are less expensive, so this can be useful. And also you can take one upgraded arsenal, because this is giving more and more upgrades for your arsenal, and they're so useful. Also, these kind of fort cards are useless for European civs, all of the European civs. And there are some cards in the economic stage, which is really useless. For example, with France or with any European civilization, you cannot take this kind of card because this is upgrading what you take from the animals, I mean the herds. And after a while, after you get on the H5, you're already building your own meals, and you are not taking any food, I mean gathering any food from the herds anyways. In this case, these cards are gonna get useless. And there are some cards you should always take. For example, for if I'm speaking for France, you should take this card. This is without this card, France can do nothing. And this card and this kind of cards are upgrading your plantations, and they will be useful. All right. After we see what kind of cards we should take and what kind of cards we shouldn't, let's see all the civilizations optimal treaty decks for Noraj 40 and Noraj 60. I'm starting from the Britain, and for example, this is for Noraj 40 because some of the civilizations has got convert cards, uh, and these cards are really useful for their economy. For example, for Britain, this card is really useful, and you see here an infinite rocket card, and you see all the useful cards here. This is another example about what I'm talking. Let's go to the second civ. For China, of course, for China, and I mean for Asian and Native American civilizations, there are some differences between European civilizations, but how can I say? The mindset is the same. You see, again, the economic cards, again, the infinite soldier, I mean unit cards, and unit upgrade cards. This is the optimal deck for China. United States, of course, for the United States, you're always picking the age up system, and you're getting 10 more cards. We're gonna talk about it in another video. But the 20 cards for the United States are like this. Maybe native deck is like this. Let's go to Inca. Of course, Inca is a bit different because you see some uninfinite cards here. This is not for just sending this 22 units for this from this. This is also upgrading your units for some Native American civilizations. For example, for Lakota and Aztec, there are some cards which is giving you, for example, 15 units and also upgrading that unit. For example, this card is just giving 13 bowmen, but also upgrading its statistics. This is why we're taking this card actually. This is the optimal deck for Inca. Let's go to the Swed. For Sweden, the deck is just different. If you're not playing mercenaries, you can just remove this card and maybe take this explorer card. For Dutch, when we come to the Dutch, this is the optimal treaty deck. This is upgrading your explorer. I mean, why you should upgrade your explorer? Because you're using it always in the fights to make some tank actions, to draw some damage to itself. French. French is converting, I mean, no, yeah, this is the optimal treaty deck for French. It's just converting some food to gold in the end of the treaty. France, Germans, the Holy Roman Empire. You can use several decks for German. For example, this is a useful one. You're just sending two settler wagons to your teammates. You have your native card and you have one infinite card like this, or you can use this one. This is also another useful deck for German. and this is Norris 60, for example. Yeah, you can use one of the three. It's depends your playstyle. Of course, the decks I'm showing to you, which is optimal, it depends on your playstyle also. You can maybe change from these decks which I'm showing to you. You can change maybe few cards depending on your playstyle, but otherwise the rest of the deck, I mean at least 20 cards, should be same because you have to take. For example, you have to take this card for India and this card for India for sure. You cannot remove it. But for example, maybe you can, sorry, not you should, you can remove this card, maybe if you want to take another card which is you think useful for you. This is for India. For Japan, I'm my main is Japan, so I have lots of decks like this. But for Norage 40, you can take this one, or you can just maybe, if you want, for example, you can just remove this 300 infinite gold, and you can take instead 4 infinite Naginata riders. For Ottomans, I'm using this deck, but you can change maybe one or two cards again. Maybe you don't take this, or instead you take this one because these are coming Nizamet Fusulier after you take this card. Portuguese, yeah, you're using too much explorer and dog stuff with Portuguese, so you take this one. Portuguese, Russians. For Russia, it's really hard to make an optimal deck because this is Rush. Yeah, you can take this one or this one because um, there are so many useful cards for Russian deck, and it's really hard to make an optimal deck. But I made this one and this one also useful. All right, Spanish. For Spain, it's always the same. Treaty main. Yeah, this one. This is a real optimal deck for Spain. You take this and this also. Maybe you can take, instead of these 2 infinite mortars, you can take maybe, yeah, this one, the Hulkan warriors, because they don't count any population. Spanish Aztecs. Actually, to be honest, I don't recommend you to play Aztecs in treaty. You can take this one, this infinite cards. As I told, these cards are all safe. Also, for example, the legendary bow bow knight, it's upgrading its attack point for 20% more, not just giving 6 of them. And also this card is giving 8 villages and making 10% more gather rate. Haudenosaunee, yeah, you can take this one. Also for Haudenosaunee, it's really hard to make an optimal deck also, but this is a fair one. This is a fair deck. And finally the Lakota. For the Lakota, you can take this one. Yeah. Instead of this 300 infinite wood card, you can take another card, no problem. But this infinite bison card is really important because you're gathering from the bisons all day, every day. With the Lakota, I mean the Sioux. Yeah. So these are all treated decks for the civilizations. You can just stop the video wherever you want and copy them for use. And I told how to make your own optimal 3D deck. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. See you in another video.